Welcome to the Agency Insider Show. I'm your host, Navneet Kaushal, and today we have a very special guest joining us. She is pioneering in AI implementation, founder of AI Workforce Alliance, and a thought leader in the world of artificial intelligence. Please welcome Ashley Grosh. Ashley, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Before we dive into our main topic, could you give our listeners a quick introduction about yourself and your journey into the world of AI?
Sure. I've been a marketer for 10 years. I discovered AI, specifically Jasper AI, back in 2020. That was the year I found out I was going to be a mom. So I had a refreshed perspective on how I was spending my time, and I just wanted to be more intentional. And ultimately, I started using AI because as a marketer, we have so many tools in our tech stack, but none of them really make us more efficient or productive. And I wanted to tackle the goal of condensing my work week from 40 hours to 15, but maintaining the exact same output. I was able to do that. I talked incessantly about all the ways I was doing that as a marketer. And in 2022, pre ChatGPT, the enterprise that I worked for had me roll out AI to the marketing org and sales org. So combined, both departments were almost or a little bit over 300 people. So we didn't really know what the large scale AI ROI looked like, but I took the same approach that I did with myself and cemented that to both organizations. And 3 months into implementing use cases within both marketing and sales, we overachieved our pipeline, which was 90 million, and we hit 115. So that was the first time I was able to say, okay, Ashley as an individual user can do all these things with AI, but at scale, AI within a business actually does translate to more revenue. And so after that, I didn't look back. I started my own agency, and now I get to work with enterprises and help them align their businesses and ultimately get better work output, and the employees get more job satisfaction because they're automating a lot of that busy work so they can focus on the strategy and what actually brings them joy. And I'm really excited and grateful to be here, and I can't imagine anything else that I would rather do.
Well, I believe I myself love doing things stuff with AI, but I always keep on reminding AI is it's a slave for you, so you gotta work accordingly. You can't just think AI is gonna overtake you. You're gonna
Yes.
make it work for you, right?
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about implementing AI strategically. You have worked with various companies, of course, to integrate AI into their operations. So, what's your typical approach to ensure AI implementations align with companies' overall strategy?
Sure. I think a big part of my strategy is honestly, AI is not for every company right now. If you think about a lot of organizations out there, maybe they don't have the processes written down somewhere, and maybe they don't have their organization watered through enough that all of the silos are broken down and they have an operational business. And I say that that's important to know because AI isn't for everyone, and it enhances. And so if your organization has silos and there's issues and you don't really know what's working or not working, AI is only going to amplify all that chaos. And so my approach is to one, make sure that the organizations I work with are actually ready for AI. That means that the way that they have their org chart structured actually makes sense for the business, not the overall department. And I think the caveat to that also is that not only is leadership on board, but they're putting resources, time, allocating KPIs and OKRs that align with AI implementation. Because if you just hire me to come in and I talk about how great AI is, nothing's going to get done. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And also, in the same note, it doesn't matter how many times your leaders at your organization are talking about AI. Are they using AI? Do they have a newsletter or a Slack or a Teams channel where they're talking about what they're doing? Are they, paying for their teams to go get training and educated on this? So I think for me, it's kind of a threefold as to the strategy and how it sticks. It's one, auditing that organization, seeing if they're even ready for it. And if they are, saying, here is a roadmap for how we're going to implement AI with executive check-ins along the way, with mini goals along the way, with quantitative and qualitative results along the way. But then also making sure that they're going to provide the resources and the education and the time. and maintain that consistency and tone with what they're telling the rest of the organization, and that they themselves are willing to have tough conversations and align on what the biggest business problem is that they need to tackle, because that's ultimately where we want to start implementing AI to be strategic.
Right. So most of the time, AI implementation, I mean, it's perceived that it's going to mean you're going to cut down on the number of workforce. So does that happen with you a lot or no?
Not at all. Not at all. If you think about it, I think this is a big lapse in education in the space right now, is that AI can replace humans. Well, how does AI learn? AI has to have something to learn from and learn how to do things. It needs a process. So when you even train, just an AI agent, for example, you physically have to have your workflow documented to accomplish one task. What are the apps that you use? How do you look at things? How do you perform your research? We need a human in order to train that agent. And then right back in the same conversation and tone, I guess you could say, is we also need a human to be checking on the agent, because it doesn't matter if that initial training is great. If you change one naming mechanism, one tool is swapped out of your tech stack, everything else changes. That whole entire workflow changes. So no, it's not replacing humans. If anything, it's actually making the humans more happy, because they don't spend all day long fielding questions. We see this at every single organization, especially at enterprises. There's a couple folks that have huge seniorities, right? They've been with the company for 9 to 10 years. What do we do with those employees? Do we reward them? Do they get bonuses? Do they get promotions? Do we give them a special spotlight in our all hands calls? No. What happens instead? All the new employees and all the employees that have any question go to those senior employees and ask them questions. So now the senior employees are stuck fielding these questions 24/7 all day long and don't have time to do their own jobs. So if anything, it just makes the culture better, and we redirect individual employees to be more self-sufficient and independent, but also we automate the things that are making them not be efficient, so that they can kind of lift their heads up and say, like, hey, we know you have a million questions. You don't actually need to do a million things. Why don't you do one thing really, really well that you like? And let's try to figure out how we can automate the other things that you need to do that might be low risk, but higher ROI, right?
Okay. And now when a business calls you for an AI automation or AI integration into their process, how do you go about determining which area of business can benefit most from AI implementation?
I really like to implement AI solutions within marketing organizations, because I don't have to change their mentality. Marketers by nature are half creative and half science based. They like to experiment and they like to be creative, but they also understand that there's formulas and algorithms. And once they find something that works, they should stick with it. So I think that from a cultural perspective, it's easier to implement AI within marketing organizations. I don't mind implementing it into the sales organizations, but I find that if you implement AI into a marketing organization, my first step is always to audit their tech stack, which my goal in doing that is to get them to realize, are you optimizing the tools you already have? Do you know all the tools that you already have? And are the tools doing what you need them to do? So that's really the goal I'm trying to get with marketing. But there's so many other goals that come out of that conversation that are beneficial to everyone else, such as, are the processes and the things that you're doing actually moving the needle? Are the informational pieces that you're getting from product actually digestible, so that by the time product hands them off to marketing, you can actually go do something with them? So it identifies bottlenecks and bigger processes just by going into marketing and saying, like, let's look at your tech stack and see what it's doing. Because then all these other conversations kind of like mind map around it.
Right. So of course, have you done any AI implementation for digital marketing agencies?
A ton. Absolutely.
Okay, because that's where we are jumping in. Of course, this is an agency insider podcast. So how do you go about it? And can you share some case study or some use case what you have done?
For agencies specifically, you're marketing to a bunch of companies. And so if you think about the busy work that could be automated with that, it's having a unified campaign brief, so that it's one campaign brief that you're sending out to a bunch of different companies, asking the same requirements before you can give them a budget and a timeline, right? Which is what you need ultimately for an accurate proposal. And it eliminates the back and forths. So from the moment that a company reaches out to your agency and says, like, we need XYZ, you send them this campaign brief and you say, okay, until you fill this out fully, we cannot populate you anything. They fill it out fully. This triggers an automation to create a project board in Asana, assign the folks that are in charge of paid ads, creative, SEO, to go in there and say, like, okay, yes, we have bandwidth. This proposal looks great. We can do these timelines within 24 hours. The proposal is automated back to that company without anyone having to lift a finger, by the way, and maintaining the communication so that it doesn't create silos, because your team already is inundated with things and they need to know from top down what the priorities are. So if you centralize just a campaign brief and a proposal coming into Asana, having your leaders sign off on what those timelines and budgets look like, and then bringing that back to the company, that's like 10 conversations in one without the calls, without the emails. And then add on top of that, especially if you're using Asana, they already have AI capabilities where you can have ruling conventions built in. So as soon as maybe on your activation map, as soon as you get a campaign brief filled out, maybe that first team that looks at it is your creative team. Well, internally, if you have these AI capabilities built into Asana and you turn them on and you're optimizing them, as soon as creative looks at it, they can click a button and then it goes to SEO or then it goes to paid ads. And so now not only are you automating the communication and aligning people over and over and over again on a daily basis, but you're also continuing to activate a campaign without one person having to go run and field, hey, did you have this? Did you have that? Where's this asset? It's doing it all on its own.
Right.
That's just one example.
Now we've been hearing 2025 is going to be a year of AI agents and all that. So how have you been going about AI agents? Have you implemented AI agents in digital marketing agencies as well?
Yes, I'm a big fan of AI agents only because I look at technical debt a lot and there's already so many tools, right? Generative AI tools are so fun. They're great. I love them. I think there's a time and place for all these tools. But if you look at the technical debt of just a marketer's tech stack in general, there's a lot that you're not using and optimizing in that tech stack that not a lot of people know, like that you're paying for it, right? Maybe you're on a legacy plan and you're paying for it and you don't know you're paying for it.
Right.
And so I'm a big supporter of agents because I think that if you can take one AI agent and build and connect multiple behaviors that, for instance, I love a Calendly, don't get me wrong, but if you build an AI agent, for instance, where you send me a general interest form, you fill out my form based on back-end variables saying, okay, he was interested in this conversation, he wants me to speak on this date at this time, then it will populate my calendar schedule and it will say Ashley's available for these 2 times. So now I'm having my agent reach out to you to book a time that we have in common, send you my availability. You don't get my full calendar availability. You get the first 2 dates of my availability. Maybe you say no. The AI agent says, that's fine. Here's her next 2 availabilities. You book it. There's a note taker. The note taker sends you an email after that call. And then the following call that we have the week later, my AI agent is sending you a 1 hour before the call reminder. Hey, here's everything you talked to Ashley about during the last call. Here's the agenda for this call. I didn't have to do that. That was one AI agent that replaced essentially Calendly, emailing, transcribing, recording, and summarizing. That's 5 tools for one AI agent. And the maintenance is going to be a lot less because AI as a service is something that a lot of people aren't even approaching as a conversation yet. But maintaining one AI agent with those behaviors is a lot easier than maintaining 5 apps and paying 4 or 5 applications to do separate things. And they don't talk to each other.
Right. You mentioned AI as a services. What exactly for our listeners? I mean, you said a lot of people are not talking about it. So let's talk about it.
Sure.
What exactly is AI as a services means?
So you're going to start building and having people build and deploy AI agents for your company. Let's create a scenario real quick for the listeners. So I come into your organization and I build you an AI agent that scans your whole entire Google Drive and treats your Google Drive as a knowledge base. And so that any prospect visiting your website at any point in time can chat with this AI agent and ask any questions, right? Like, do they cover this in their offerings? What would the pricing be for this? And let's just say you have a new employee and they move that knowledge base from your Google Drive into a different Google Drive. And they don't tell anyone because that's like not really a high tech security, protocol. You wouldn't think you're doing anything wrong. That AI agent now doesn't know where to go because it moved its knowledge base. So it stops working. So somebody needs to maintain that agent so that before it stops working or before it hallucinates and tells your prospects crazy things and flies off the handles, you need somebody maintaining that AI agent that says, hey, I see on the screen that this AI agent's confused. Did anybody move XYZ before it ever starts to hallucinate or have an issue? And by the way, you have to catch it in a very specific amount of time before it hallucinates. And you have to have these mechanisms built to iterate and feedback loops so that whoever's building these agents, if they're doing it correctly, has like a red light, green light, yellow light system. So anytime there's an issue, it knows how to circulate it and get a human involved immediately, depending on the priority level. That's AI as a service in a nutshell.
Okay. Now, I mean, you of course talk about leveraging AI, and you talked about 10 days AI business building framework, which
Okay.
of course is fascinating. Now, what exactly is that, and what's the first step you recommend for businesses venturing into AI?
Sure. So my 10-day framework is really just taking an audit of in your past experiences and your past roles, you've done a lot of things. And we probably don't give ourselves enough credit for all of the experiences that we have because we remember what we've done in the form of titles. And if you've ever worked for a company, your title might have been, SEO specialist, but in reality, you were running paid ads, SEO, right? LinkedIn, whatever. A lot more than your title suffices. And so the first day of my 10-day framework is essentially to audit what those experiences look like and remind you of what your skill sets are, but then also kind of have a nice little intentional check-in of what are you not excited about doing and what do you not know how to do? Because a lot of times having a bad business plan is why people fail at creating businesses. And so really taking an audit of here are the things I know I'm good at and can do, and here are the things I might not have experience in or I might not want to do. Let's go find generative AI tools or automations or build an agent that can help me do those things since I don't have the luxury of time of stopping what I'm doing to go learn and become a specialist in these fields and build my business. So it's really just benchmarking and then filling in with AI tools, automations, or agents. And I guess to answer your second part, my advice for anyone getting into this AI field is you don't need to start an AI business. You can start a business using AI and be insanely successful. Just because everyone else is incorporating AI into their products and features does not mean that you should be or need to be. There are way more tools right now that have Copilot and beta features built in that one, their users did not ask for. We did not want them. They
Right.
are not helpful. They are more distracting. And if anything, it's actually hindering our experience. So tools that we used to love all the time have these built-in features that we can't turn off now that are actually ruining the experience. So they took a perfectly good tool that their users liked and slammed some AI onto it so that it could have this sticker that says it's AI and be a part of this moment. When in reality, it did way more bad reputationally for the company than good. So if you want to be an AI, think about like what it is about AI right now that you want and are excited about if you want to actually proceed with creating a company or product and service with AI incorporated, or just maybe take your domain expertise of what you're good at and where you come from and implement AI solutions to elevate and enhance what was already working in there.
Right. Now, for someone with limited resources, what are the must-have tools or strategies you will to get started?
I love this question. I'm so scrappy still to this day. So some of my favorite tools actually are Miro and Toggle, and neither one of those are AI tools. Miro, specifically the workflow diagram and the flow chart, is really, really helpful because when you start to learn to build automations and AI agents, that's what you're doing. So if you have that stored somewhere, that is already going to help you jump 10 feet ahead of everyone else and their learning development. And then I would also say Toggle because it just makes you more intentional about how you're spending your time without creating busy work for you to figure out how you're spending your time. So it's just this free little Chrome extension browser that you can be doing anything in any browser tab you want. You just click start, stop. You can label tasks and say, I hate doing this. I love doing this. You can
Right.
add a description. And you never have to physically stop what you're doing and go somewhere else. It's just living on every single tab that you have open. That's really the first part, is documenting your workflows, getting intentional about where you're spending your time. And then from there, there's lots of tools that have been around in the market for a while that are adding agentic features. Zapier is a great example of one. It's not just automations. They have chatbots, they have agents. So if you've already been playing around with tools within your tech stack, perhaps you don't try to find net new tools. Perhaps you just try to play around with the new features and product updates within those tools. Zapier being a great example because their enterprise plan is pretty affordable.
Now, what about recent tool like Relevance or Make or N8? And so have you experienced these as well? What is your take on these?
I think I'm experiencing AI fatigue at this point. In the last 4 years, I've tested over 200 AI tools. So I am very much cutting back. I have tested every single tool that you just named. Right now, for me, I'm a tinkerer by nature, so it's hard for me to not tinker. And so the way that I keep myself on track is the tools that I tinker with need to be enterprise grade because those are what my clients need. There's no sense in me playing with tools for small business owners or solopreneurs if the enterprises that I'm working for would never allow them. So I like to play around with tools like Blue Prism, like UiPath, like Lindy, because they have SOC2, they have the highest levels of cybersecurity clearance, and that is what my enterprises are looking for. So I know that all of my time spent on educating myself and learning and being consistent and practicing are worth the investment because that's what my clients are going to need.
Okay, and if you have to advise, if somebody has to start building AI agents, do you have any advice for them?
Start in Miro. Start documenting what you're doing in Miro. This often is the hardest part for people because they just instinctively do things without realizing what they're doing or having a log of this somewhere. So I would say document what you're doing in Miro and then take that Miro board. You can even use ChatGPT to assist you. So at a minimum, if you wanted to do this as laissez-faire as possible, document it in Miro. Take a screenshot of that Miro flowchart, upload it into ChatGPT and say, I want to build an agent, list out the trigger and all the action steps, and then use that as a blueprint, open up an agent software system and use that as your blueprint for building it. That's what I would do. Because at a certain point, you can ideate and plan all you want, but you just have to rip the Band-Aid and start experimenting in a safe way. And that's the best way to do it.
Okay, I think most of the time people think the AI agents is a complicated thing and they don't go out and experiment. So
Exactly.
I agree with you. The experimenting with AI, any AI tool is very, very important.
Yes.
Now, let's talk a little bit about personalizing AI for businesses. In your experience, how important is personalization when using AI for content creation or customer interaction?
Well, let's talk about personalization for a second, because I always like to make this joke. We know what good personalization feels like. It's when you go to the coffee shop and the owner of that coffee shop remembers your order and you're like, I'm never leaving. And like, even if you have a bad day and you have to wait 15 minutes for coffee, you're like, this is my local coffee shop though. Like I can't, you feel a loyalty to these people and
Right.
these companies. That's what good personalization feels like. But what always cracks me up and mystifies me is we know what good personalization feels like. So when we start to implement this in content, let's say, for example, trying to send out 100 LinkedIn DMs and we're using automation software that claims that it's personalizing, somehow that intimate coffee shop personalization that we know we like ends up being for our customers and our clients and our prospects. Hey, Ashley, I see you're into AI. We should connect. Or my favorite is they'll use these automation tools where I know it's a ChatGPT API plug and they won't even remove the quotation marks. So they'll just copy and paste whatever ChatGPT told them to with the quotation marks still in. And so it's very important to answer your question, but I think that the way you go about it is way more important than doing it. I would rather someone not send me a DM than send me a ChatGPT DM that isn't corrected. And maybe that's not fair, but I do feel that's a lot of how, that's a lot of the methodology that current users are feeling is you burn the bridge. You burned my trust. I don't even know if you're human. Maybe you're an avatar, right? So there's no coming back from that. So I think intentional personalization is really the key here. And for me, it's not writing content. I've never liked using AI to write content. For me, it's about the research. So I love a waterfall enrichment. And what that means is whenever clients visit my website, on the back end, if they fit my ideal customer persona, I immediately have an agent start pulling research on them. And they don't need to form fill a thing. I am just having this waterfall enrichment where it's, okay, find the company they work for, find their title, scrape the web for any podcast or speaking engagements that they've been a part of. Oh, you couldn't find that? Okay. Find their LinkedIn profile and tell me where they currently live. What is a local food that's really personalized to that location where they live? So a waterfall is just like, if you can't find this, then look for this, and then look for this, and then look for this. So by the time I send my personalized DM to them, it's, hey, Ashley, I see you live in Maryland. Have you tried the blue crabs at the local shack downtown? Love them. I feel great about that. I would love to receive that message because they did 2 minutes of research that they didn't even do. It was an AI agent, and they sent me something as opposed to trying to fit in what they were trying to sell within 300 characters and trying to make it relatable.
Right. That's a very interesting use case of using an I'm sure it's an AI agent, right?
Yes.
Yes, that is. Now, going on along with this, what challenges do businesses face when training AI tools to reflect their brand identity, and how do you think they can overcome these?
I think a lot of companies are trying to take shortcuts and just have the AI write for them. AI is a good reformatter, but you have to know what you want to say and how you want to say it. You have to know in one sentence. This is something my advisor just continuously iterates and reminds me of on a daily basis. Everyone that works for a company or owns a company, you should know who you are selling to, what you are selling, and why you are selling in one sentence. One sentence. And so I think what companies try to do is they try to take shortcuts and try to prompt ChatGPT, for example, and say, this is a person I want to get, pitch them on XYZ. And it's no, what are you selling? Who are you selling it for? And why? And then reformatting whatever you want to say with those questions in mind and the audience in mind. And so I think that a lot of people don't actually really understand what a brand tone is. A brand tone is not an Excel sheet where you're saying, we don't say any of these words. We say these words. A brand tone is, what are the 3 pillars of communication that you want to convey to the rest of the world? How do you want them to know about your products and services? And what are some themes that you would like to integrate into your messaging? And then taking that and brain dumping into whatever LLM you want and saying, reformat this for LinkedIn for me. Here's my brand tone and voice template.
Okay, so that I agree. Most of the company thinks that the LLM would know most of the things. So right now, also, can you share an example of a successful implementation where AI truly matched the unique tone of the business?
100%. I have AI agents running a lot of my company, and I have one for PR, for partnerships, for scheduling demos. I mean, I have them for pretty much everything so that I can actually use my human employees to have conversations and be in person and speak and do all those wonderful things. So many success stories. I would say that my number one tip and reason why it's so successful though is because I put myself through my prospect's own shoes. I think that we don't spend enough time setting up these agents for brand voice and personalization, and then we don't spend nearly enough time iterating. Once you build an agent, you should not be mass deploying this to everybody. You should have 3 of your emails on a list, getting every single email that your agent is sending for a period of 2 weeks, right? So that you can actually see, oh, as a prospect, this doesn't look good on mobile. This word is hyperlinked in a different color. These little things make a big difference, and not enough companies put themselves through the view and lens of their prospects and experience the messaging and marketing through their perspective.
Okay. Now, one question. So what happens when, with the advancement of so many agents every day, today also ChatGPT launched operative. So how does you change your approach, or do you incorporate these things immediately, or do you wait? Because AI is changing so fast. So how do you keep pace with what is there in your implementation tech stack?
Right. I think how I keep track is, like I said, I'm spending a lot more time with agents. It's equally exciting, but also sad and disparaging because a lot of these AI tools are not going to exist in a year or two. They're going to be redundant. A lot of them already are. There's lots and lots of duplicate tools that don't do great jobs, and they have one shiny feature that's nice. So I spend a lot of my time on building agents that are sustainable long term and reduce my technical stack so that I'm not having a bunch of tools that I'm experimenting with. My tech stack cost me under $300. And that's pretty wild if you think about the clients that I'm working with. I'm attracting and working with enterprise clients. It takes a lot to get in front of them and get messaging and positioning right. And I think that just being mindful of, are my tools working this month? What do I need them to perhaps do next month that I want to experiment with? Can they do that? Yes or no? And then being able to adapt and evolve. And even if I love tools, like I love HubSpot, love, love, love HubSpot, used it for years. But if it stopped doing the things that I needed to do, or I started experimenting and it didn't have those technical capabilities, I would get rid of it. And I would find a tool that could do that. And I think just having that mentality of like adapt or die essentially is really what it is. But at the same tone, it's not, hey, OpenAI has a new feature. I need to stop what I'm doing and go focus on that. It's more so, can I do that already? Yeah, absolutely. I have an AI agent that can work for me in my browsers right now, and I can watch it do it. And it's terrifying and cool and creepy. So I don't necessarily need that. Do I want to play around with it on the weekend to see the capabilities and test them and nerd out? Yeah, but I don't need it. I want it. I want to play with it. So it kind of gets deprioritized and it loses that oversaturated urgency that a lot of times I think people have or feel.
Okay. And now, of course, as you also mentioned, AI space is becoming increasingly crowded. How can businesses avoid falling into the trap of saturation?
Just like I said, keep your heads down and think about your business has an overall health gauge. And I think we forget about this, especially when we work for other people. But like, just because your department's doing really, really well, if the business isn't doing well, your job's still not safe. It doesn't matter how well you're doing at your role in your department. I see this happen a lot with marketing and sales. Marketing teams will say like, oh, well, we're bringing in this many leads, and sales just isn't closing them. And it's like, but the business isn't doing good. So at the end of the day, no one's job is safe. So what are we doing right now? Like
Right.
if you don't have a job, what's the conversation going to look like when you go home? We lost our job, but we did really good and hit our quotas this month. No. So go back as a department and think, okay, how is the business doing? What can we in the marketing, in the sales department do to contribute a solution to solve the problem that the business is facing? And then how do we implement AI to help us solve it faster, better, more efficient? That's how you stay on track and avoid the saturation. It's just noise and it's meant to be distracting. So if you're getting distracted by the next shiny thing, you're never going to be able to maintain quality output. And that's ultimately, as a director, as a VP, as a C-suite, you are in charge and your compensation is based on output. So mirror that.
Yeah, because most of the businesses thinks, let's jump on the first new tool comes out. If, for example, if ChatGPT comes with new, I should be the first one implementing it. It's like the first person wins the race. That's not
Right.
the case, right?
No, not at all.
All right. Now, what are some unique strategies for positioning a business as a leader in AI domain like you have done,
For a business,
who is going to implement AI?
I really think that it's just about getting quiet and showing what you're doing. So many people, I've heard it so many times, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners can resonate to this. We go to these conferences and we listen to these podcasts and we subscribe to these newsletters, and all of these leaders tell us what we can do with AI. And it's like, but what are you doing with AI? What are you doing with AI? I want to know what you as a leader are doing so that if I'm in an equal position or seat and I want to get the role that you have, or I want to have that experience or be in those rooms, I know what you are doing with AI and I'm getting ideas on how I can use it. We can talk all day long, but at the end of the day, a good leader knows when to plan and when to execute. And if you never execute, you're just a planner. You're a glorified planner. So stop talking about what you're going to do with AI and just start experimenting with it. If your company has a license to OpenAI or Anthropic and that's it, or just Copilot, put your head down. There might be a million things that you cannot do with these tools that you want to do. Start finding what you can do with them. And then start building out proof of concepts of what you can do with the tools you already have access to show leadership. Hey, we are working with what we have, but here's all the things we could be doing if we had these tools. They're going to be a lot more susceptible to give you the budget and IT give you like the green light to play around with more tools if you show them you know how to work with what you already have and optimize it.
Okay, now there's another fear where businesses have that if I don't use AI, I might get left out or I might get obsolete. So how do you think is truth when it comes to specifically the online businesses or digital marketing agencies?
People themselves aren't going to get left behind, their businesses will. We live in a very instant gratification culture. TikTok, all these other social media applications. If I want a burger, I can get on my phone right now and order it and it'll be here in 15 minutes. That's so weird. And so we lose the ability to be patient and wait. And a lot of people don't even realize that. Like if you ask somebody, hey, why did you choose DoorDash over Grubhub? They would probably be like, oh, I was already logged in. It said the wait time was shorter. They're not thinking about the quality of the service or how many reviews Grubhub has versus DoorDash. It's who can get here faster and what is the ease of use. That's where businesses are going to get left behind when it comes to not adapting AI, because the businesses that are using AI can put one message in front of 50 different people in 50 different personalized ways and on different distribution channels. Whereas if you're not using AI, you probably can't do that efficiently or effectively. That's where you're going to start to feel it, because if you can't be in front of your audience in the ways that are relevant to them, then your competition can.
Okay, now let's talk one scenario where let's say there is an SEO agency. How do you think an SEO agency can pitch themselves something related to AI? Do they need to, or how they can position themselves when it comes to AI or reposition? Because a lot of people talk about if are you not using AI? So how do you think, what is the best way to go about it?
SEO is like this mythical creature where everyone knows it works and it's effective, but they have no idea what the heck those people are doing, right? So when it comes to how to position an SEO agency with AI, I would 100% try to add to my products and service offerings that we will build an AI agent that maintains SEO after we leave. So they're still hiring your agency to implement AI, or to implement SEO. And you're still going to have the executive check-ins, audit, tell them, hey, this is what it looked like when we came in. This is what it looks like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. But then you build an AI agent because you're already doing the work, which is the blueprint for building an AI agent, so that when you leave, that company is now paying you a maintenance fee for maintaining SEO, but it's actually the agent doing it. And then you're just checking on it on the background. So it's almost like you as a leader and your best people are going in, implementing this, building the roadmaps, having these conversations. And then your interns who watched you build it and know how to build it are maintaining it. So that's not high quality work, right? Like that wouldn't be worth your time every single day as a 9 to 5, but it would be worth the time to check in with your intern to make sure that they're still observing and learning, because you wouldn't want to put them in client facing roles, but you would want them to learn. And that's the safest, low risk way for them to learn and for you to continue to make money and not be obsolete.
Okay. And will the client not say to ask to pay less in this case?
100% no, I don't think that they should, because you're still going in there and you're still doing the work. It's the maintenance. If you think about it, what actually happens when you hire an SEO agency is you hire them for a contract, they leave, things break. As soon as that agency leaves, things start breaking. So for the client, they're going to spend more money bringing you back in to fix things that broke after you left, which is no fault of your own, right? They didn't want to hire you to maintain it because they didn't see the ROI or the use case in it. So now it's more expensive to bring your agency back to fix the things that they broke. For you, it's actually more demanding, because if they would have just paid you to maintain it, then these issues wouldn't have happened. So now you're having to have the same employees go back and do the work 2 times that they could have just done once and maintained it for less money. And as far as like data goes, it's even more secure if you have a maintenance fee, because you have a mapping of what all of this looks like, all of the meta tags, all of these things that are working. So if at any point in time, 5 years down the road, this company wants to take an audit of day one versus year five's performance, you have all of that. It's very, very rare in companies that they even have that. It's like a health check. They have no health check to look back on. They're just like, we're doing great. It's like, right, but what were you doing? What did you start at? We don't know, but we're doing great. What if you want to get acquired? People ask these questions. If you get to a certain growth stage, people want to acquire you and they're going to ask you, how are you doing? What did you do? And if you don't know, that's a liability.
Right. Right. Now, you often mention the importance of aligning AI with clear business outcomes. So can you elaborate on how to set these goals effectively?
Sure. Every company that I've worked with has KPIs or OKRs. Take those KPIs and OKRs and think about how and where. I'll keep going back to Miro. Take those KPIs and form them into a mind map. So now you see the whole entire org, every single department, and what KPIs visually each department is in charge of. Now I don't know, add sticky notes, whatever you want in Miro. I like sticky notes. So take the sticky notes and start sticky labeling in Miro over top of those KPIs, over top of those departments, where AI can strategically help that department accomplish the OKR or KPI faster or better. That's how you strategically implement AI, and you align the whole entire business and you consistently keep it at top of mind as far as priorities go. You always tie it back to the KPIs and OKRs because that's what they're hearing over and over and over and over again from leadership.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about the future of AI in marketing and business. How do you see AI reshaping marketing strategies, let's say in the next 2 to 5 years?
I mean, it's already reshaping strategies because if you have the ability to get more efficient and spend money in more strategic ways, now a lot of marketing organizations are starting to be more CFO led. And that doesn't mean that the CFO is replacing the CMO by any means, but that means that if we're looking at an org chart, here's the CFO and the CMO and the CFO are in line and they are talking, they are direct correspondence on one line, and the marketing is flowing through the finances. And I think that this is going to be really, really great. And I already see it paying off twofold, I think, because the CFO now understands like where money is being spent and why and how it's helping the business, which is leading to way less, I would say, in-house politics within organizations because there's a clear why for the revenue and there's justification and there's alignment on why it's important. And I think a lot of times marketers, especially CMOs, are misunderstood a lot of times because nobody knows how much marketing does on a daily basis.
Right. Okay. And with concerns around AI ethics and of course privacy, how can business ensure responsible use of AI?
You have to get a policy together. There's still an astonishing amount of companies that don't have a usage policy. You are so naive if you don't think that your employees are using AI just because you don't have a usage policy, and you are making your job so much harder. Put out an anonymous report, ask your employees to fill it out, and truly keep it anonymous for trust and transparency. But ask them, what LLM are you using? What are you putting into it? Can you give us an example? What resources would help you use this better? And then based off of those answers, and you're not going to like them, but you have to suck it up. Based off those answers, form a basic usage policy to act as a point of reference so that there is something there. And you can constantly iterate, but you've got to put out a usage policy. And ideally, you should really be having an enterprise or at least a Teams plan for OpenAI or Anthropic or Copilot available. So that way that all your employees are actually maintaining your data and it's less of a liability for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree because it's just people think a $20 chat GPT is enough while you can have a team, which is much more efficient way as well. And of course, the data is kept private as well.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Now, if you have to predict one major breakthrough in AI that will redefine industries, what would that be?
Oh, one breakthrough. I don't know if I just have one. I would say the amount of low code, no code tools that are hitting the market right now, that's going to be pretty wild because we're used to paying software developers an insane amount of money and not really understanding what they're doing and just trying to get this one outcome. And we think that we're not capable of doing these things ourselves. And that's not a slam against software developers. They're still going to be insanely useful in so many other places. But I think that the low code, no code tools that are currently in the market and continuing to hit the market are going to be huge breakthroughs because non-traditional tech people are going to realize they can do a lot more than they are doing. And that's great because if they can do their task and then figure out how to do the technical aspects of the other tasks around them that are a domino effect of whatever they're doing, then they're going to be able to do their work better because they understand after they do their work, here's where it goes next, right? After I create the copy and it goes on the landing page, here's how fast the landing page is now. And here's how I can optimize that. And maybe if I know that, then I can change my strategy on writing content and optimizing content and images. So it works both ways. It's like mass cross training, and it's only going to make the workforce better.
Right. I agree with that. I mean, of course, with Salesforce also assigning they're not going to hire any developers this year. Of course, that's where the world is heading.
Right.
Now, off to my favorite part, which is rapid fire questions. So you answer what comes first in your mind.
Oh gosh.
So let's go. So favorite AI tool you recommend?
Oh, Anthropic.
Okay, that's favorite of you. The biggest misconception about AI?
That it's going to replace humans.
Okay. One thing you wish businesses would stop doing with AI.
Wishing that an employee in the organization would start using AI without any resources, communication, or time.
Okay. Okay. And if AI were a superhero, what powers would it have?
Flying? I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
That's okay. It's rapid fire. That's what it's supposed to be. All right. All right, Ashley. It's been an incredible discussion.
You're welcome.
And before we wrap up, what final piece of advice would you give to our listeners who are looking to leverage AI for their businesses?
There's so much noise out there and there's so many people using AI in so many different ways. None of that is relevant to you. You are so different than anyone else, and you have a special set of skills and a special set of experiences that truly no one else has. So figure out what you are good at, figure out if it's what you want to continue to be good at and do, and then implement AI for you to either do it better, faster, smarter. That's it. Keep your head down and focus on those things and don't pay attention to the noise because it's just that.
And avoid the shiny objects.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. And for our listeners who want to learn more about your work or connect with you, where can they find you online?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place to find me.
Okay. And that's a wrap up for today's episode of the Agency Insider Show. Big thank you to Ashley Gross for her valuable insights into AI implementation and strategies, and of course, what to do with AI and what not to do. And remember to subscribe to our podcast for more insider knowledge on the latest trends in the agency world. Until next time, this is your host, Navneet Kaushal, signing off. Thank you. Thank you once again, Ashley.
Thank you.